Hola, hola, and buenos dias, GnGs. My name is Trekkw2ks, and welcome to another episode of Weekend Crypto, brought to you here on the Gentleman of Crypto Network. And again, in case you don't know, I am Trekkw2ks. The basic idea of this segment is I cover crypto-related news stories that happen between Friday and a Sunday and pop them out 08 Monday morning. And I do it with a no price talk filter, meaning I'm not telling you what the latest tea is on DGen, on meme coins, altcoins, none of that shit over there. Sorry, but not sorry. That's why we got like Rule Black, and we got, you know, King and Zay, and we got Jake Fever and them that do all of the price talk, all of the TA, FA stuff. I'm just not that guy. Nonetheless, though, I appreciate the folks who do tap into my segment, and I know I do the whole 08 thing, and then like right behind me is the Stack Bros. It's not the Stack Bros, it's actually Stacks, but I call them bros. No disrespect. Nonetheless, I do appreciate the folks who are tapping in, whether you are just discovering me or whether you've been doing it as a lurker for a minute. It's okay. I appreciate nonetheless, because as long as the algo's seeing that somebody's watching and people are interacting, I'm cool. And I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I have been trying to make the better concerted effort to not get too lost in the minutia details on things and taking things for granted. Because when you've been in the space for a minute, yo, like just at a certain point, you just be looking and you just shake your head and keep it moving, man. Like bottom line, and there's a lot of that going on right now. I just be shaking my head and I keep it moving. But I hope that I do say something that gets y'all to think, that gets y'all to question, that gets you to, you know, do your due diligence and how you looking to maneuver through this space. Because yeah, it's a fair amount of things happening, and not just here in the States. It's also on the international scale. Because why? Blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies, it's open to everyone kind of thing, aka permissionless. But before I jump into the stories, let me just say this segment is brought to you by CJ the Smart Guy. He is a CPA who focuses in on crypto for the individual level person, as well as businesses that are dealing with crypto related, you know, things. And so link for his stuff is in the description. I don't say this to you as I'm getting a kickback or this is a referral link. This is just saying, full disclosure, he is my actual CPA. And if you're in an American jurisdiction, as we have learned and watched by what happened to CZ, as well as what's going on with Binance right now, if you in this American jurisdiction, you need to cross your T's and dot your I's. So when you're doing your due diligence on who you actually pick out for your CPA, you know, you at least have some kind of reference, being CJ, to compare it to, because he also does a open consultation thing where he gives you a little bit of talk time to figure out what's going on with you. I tell you all the time, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a financial advisor. I just happen to be around in the space for a while, and I definitely have smarter people in my circle, such as CJ, to help me in the things that I do not know in the full legal aspects, right? Just throwing that out there. And so let's get into these stories, y'all. All right. Here we have it on the first story. It is Binance class action lawsuit dismissal reversed by appeals court. So basically, it was a thing of where it's a class action lawsuit of people who are saying, hey, you know, Binance didn't let us know that there was an issue regarding this stuff being securities. By the way, I got a couple of Binance stories in the court case issues going on, and they're literally like trying to balance their corners for the number of legal situations they have going on, not just here in the US. But in regards to this particular case, basically, the Second Circuit Court came back and was like, oh, yeah, we're gonna reverse the dismissal that y'all got from the previous court. And so the plaintiffs in this class action lawsuit do have some ground to stand on. And yeah, y'all are gonna have to rehash this issue out. So that's the bottom line of that, as far as like, they thought it was done, but apparently this judge was like, no, it's not. The plaintiffs do have a valid thing, and y'all are gonna have to deal with this again. So I don't know if it's just more so of a timing thing with how all of this is going on. And when I get into the other two stories, you'll get why I'm saying it's a timing thing, coincidence speaking wise. But it just seems like it's a lot happening in the legal realm for Binance right now. And I don't know if this counts as a distraction for, are they still holding it down market dominance wise as an exchange? I'm not 100% certain because I don't dig into it like that with them. But it's just an interesting time to watch all of this play out. And what is this? Like, even when CZ was still in, like, it was a number of things happening. but stuff was still pushing along, and they were still the dominant factor in the exchange markets. Now I'm like, I don't know, because I don't hear how people are talking about Binance in the same capacity. Just throwing that out there. All right, on to this next story, y'all. So in this next one, we have Binance uses Ripple ruling to dispute SEC's way precedent. And I might be saying that totally wrong, but the basic idea was they actually used two different court cases to say the way that the SEC is saying that we were selling unregistered securities is questionable, because in regards to the court case of the way, which was really the insider trading thing, the defendant in that case didn't actually push back on nothing. It was like, yeah, I did wrong, I did this. And they just agreed to what the SEC said they did. They didn't actually like do a full examination of, well, why it wasn't a security, and well, they didn't go through that process. So now Binance is like, and by the way, that was Coinbase's person. It was a Coinbase person who, if I'm right on that, I do believe that was in relation to the Coinbase person that was charged with the insider trading. But nonetheless, they're using that as the example, going, well, not the example, but they're going, hey, that shouldn't be a precedent because it wasn't fully examined on one of the merits that count as a security. And if the person didn't defend themselves and they just agreed to whatever you said, how do you count that as being a full, like, vetted out case? So that's one thing. Then there's another joint where they're using the Ripple case and going, well, if you're saying that Ripple isn't this, like, well, how did y'all define that in the Ripple case? Like, we have Ripple on our platform, and it kind of works the way that other coins and tokens work on the platform. So how are y'all making this distinction? Which I think goes to a really good point. Like, the SEC is being very subjective, but they hide behind the title. That's just my thought on it. You don't have to agree with me. I'm just throwing that out there, right? And so there's another case that is in, what is it called? It's called the what is it called? It was called SEC and Life Partners. Not 100% certain on the Life Partners thing because I didn't read that far into the article on it, but basically Binance is like, yo, we got 3 examples that are questionable about how the SEC is trying to kick our backs in, saying we selling unregistered securities when they're not even clarifying how they coming up with it in a very understandable, present, modern day applicable scenario that we can all agree on. Like, using the Huey test or the Howey test from more than 75 years ago, it ain't cutting it. And then they do this other thing too with how they define the work effort of others, which they loosely expand into saying that the network counts as that. But that's a whole other thing within itself. Nonetheless, Binance is arguably losing on one front, but they're able to push back on another front. And this is just where they are. Like, they're on a multi-front legal battle zone right now. And I'm gonna jump into this next story because that's the short of what I got on that. I don't know how this is going to turn out for them. I don't think anybody really knows how this is going to turn out for them. I do wonder now, though, that considering they have the new leadership, considering that, the phase or the era of CZ is about to come to the close, and they do have the DOJ person in their operations set up, like, will this get smoothed out somehow? Because in my opinion, I said this before, I think they're being put into a proxy position for other things. I said the other week, covered a story about how they're now a part of the Interpol messaging network that deals with the whole fraud and, financial crime stuff. So it's like, are they really trying to shut down the exchange? I don't know about shut down in like a just, one and done, but might it be a slow choke out? I'm leaning more towards the slow choke out. I could be way wrong, but that's my take on it. If you disagree with me, comments is open. We in the live. Let's do this. All right, next joint here. So Binance exit sparks fears and opportunities in Nigeria's crypto community. So you remember I said the other day, and I didn't see any story that actually like went as far as I went. But it basically boils down to the Nigerian SEC was like, well, if y'all not going to show up, and they really want the CEO to come show up. In my mind, it's still one of those, like, what makes you think you have the prestige or the sway to make us come to you like you're the United States actual SEC. Get the hell out of here. You're not. And so what I had said last week, and I got to get into the live thing, but I'm gonna get into that later on, was that it would be funny if the government turned around and was like, yo, y'all not gonna come? Word? All right, bet. Shut everything down. How about that's what they did, y'all? They literally was like, yo, you can't use the Naira on any of the exchange, on any Binance related exchange. Like they shoulder tapped all of the financial institutions and was like, yo, you can't let the Naira go on any exchange named Binance. So now Binance had to take everything off. And they're like, all right, if you can't liquidate out, we're just going to convert your stuff into the Tether. And then as a user, you go where you need to go and we're going to do what we need to do. My question is this. Are they playing a game of chicken right now? Right? Because at the end of the day, and I'm looking at it this way. As far as the government's concerned, that was them trying to, pocket check Binance. Hey, we know that there's some illegal activity going on. Granted, y'all might be doing all y'all compliance stuff. Like, think about this. You coming to them and being like, yo, y'all doing illegal activity. These folks literally have the snitch on the payroll in the office, but you're going to tell them they got illegal activity happening when they have a snitch employee. The co-CEO, the co-founder encourages snitching on fellow coworkers and you get like 10K. Hey, listen. So in that regard, this is like, what the hell are y'all talking about? Like, we've been cleaning up the books for a minute right now, and we spend a hefty amount on compliance. We are literally a part of multiple law enforcement networks. How are y'all coming to us and telling us that we got illegal things happening on our network? Like, nah, dog, you ain't pocket checking. You ain't pocket checking me. Not when I'm the snitch network. Like, how crazy does that sound? I'm the snitch network, but you're telling me you're going to pocket check me because you saying there's illegal things happening on my network. Get the hell out of here, dog. So now the game of chicken is this, right? Binance, and I made the point last week, I think it was last week when I was bringing this up, is that the user base in Nigeria is majority younger folks because the majority of Nigeria's population is under 30 or under 35. So they are digitally inclined or digitally aware as a group, society, whatever, demographic. There we go. So now the thought process to me is this, and I haven't actually reached out to anybody over that way to like get their take on it. This is just me going off head. The government doesn't get to pocket check Binance anymore. Binance pulls out of the market. So we're closing down offices, operations. We're having to let go X number of the employees that are within the country, as well as, and I imagine some people are either going to take the opportunity to try to make their own type of business opportunity as far as an exchange or something, as well as they're going to go to the other local and other international exchanges that either are already in Nigeria or are looking to get a beachhead into the Nigerian market. Now, where does this go? It then means you're going to have people who know how the dominant market player worked, who's going to bring that knowledge base to your platform. That's assuming you can snipe them with a sizable enough, check in hand, right? If you're going for X amount of the talented people, or at least I don't know if talent is the word, but more about like, if they don't have the talent per se to like technically execute this stuff, they at least know have the access to get to who's in the network. And so then it gets into a hiring frenzy on scooping up the people who are either the technical talented executioner or the people who have the network and the biz development relations to make things happen. That's going to be the next phase that happens, assuming this thing really does go where Binance has to actually leave the Nigerian market. It's going to be a talent frenzy for getting the folks who were at Binance, right? The article kind of goes in a different direction, saying like, oh, it's going to be a lot of unemployed people that people won't know what to do. But they also say like, yes, there's going to be opportunities for businesses local. I'm saying it to this way. There's going to be a talent frenzy, a grab, a free-for-all to get the folks who are over at Binance. Some folks are going to go independent and try to do their own thing. The question then boils down to how long can Binance sit out of the Nigerian market while this development is happening, while the regulators are like, all right, well, we got to deal with who's here now. And some people are going to kowtow to the regulatory stuff and the shifting and changes and blah, blah, blah. Some people are going to still try to buck the system. How much or how will the regulators go for trying to tighten down, considering the things that they've done in the past, 4 years? And how well have those things played out? Not that well at all. So we're going to see what happens over the next 2 to 3 years. Then the other thought process is this. Binance sits out for, let's say, a year and a half. You have a year and a half of not having Binance in the Nigerian market. It grows and develops the way that it does as far as local businesses, and then foreign businesses coming in to establish or grow their brand within that market. When Binance finally decides to come back into the market, do they do it by acquiring? Who's going to go, hey, I'll sell my exchange out for, a good 2.5 million, a good 5 million. I mean, the number's got to be more than that by the time we look at 2 years or so down the road. But the point being is, if Binance comes back in the market, let's say they sit out 2 years, a year and a half, do they come back in by doing acquisitions, or is it going to be some kind of partner deal, biz dev kind of thing? I don't know, but those are the thoughts that are running through my head of, if they actually sit out, completely drop out, a year and change later, 2 years later, how do they come back in? And in the meantime, the folks who got dropped from Binance, do they look to go back to them when they look to come back in? Or do they stay where they stay? Those are just the thoughts in my head, y'all. I could be wrong. I could be right. Who knows? Time will tell. Indicator is that there's going to be a frenzy for the talent that came out of, that gets left behind by Binance, assuming they actually leave. The trend is people are going to be people. They will find a way to make sure they get what they need done. And I'm talking about people at the local level. There will be some kind of network. There will be some exchange that has the needed utilities that the people need to do what they need to do. Whether the government looks to be a supportive role in that, that's up in the air, right? Because everything is about the whole capital flight control and trying to figure out how to get the funds out of the people, right? The capital, the taxes, all of that. The pattern is the government's going to keep doing what they're doing to try to keep holding the people down and keeping them limited to a degree. But at the end of the day, the people on the ground are going to be people being people. All right, next story. So, Wyoming Greenlights legal status for decentralized autonomous organizations, aka DAOs, everyone's favorites, right? So, where am I going to go with this story? I don't call this a pattern. I do call this an indicator of some craziness that's going to come up over the next 3 years. And I'm basing this on a conversation that I had with a friend who has an exchange that's being set up. They're in the process of bringing it to market in full. They're based out of New York. And we've had conversations about the Wyoming thing and what annoys him about what is coming out of the Caitlin Long's camp, which is this whole DAOs operation and stuff. And here's the bottom line, right? And I'm gonna show you this. Where's the thing at? This diagram here. Right? We're not even gonna look at the words in the article. It's a really short article nonetheless. So basically it goes, what is it? Where is it at? Okay. So the legislation becomes effective on July 1st and establishes decentralized unincorporated nonprofit association, DUNAs, in the state. The Wyoming governor signed a legislation basically this week that will go into effect July 1st. Now, they're calling these things DUNAs. First off, they're relabeling what it is, which means they redefined what it is to a degree in order to fit within the current legal framework at the state level. In this diagram that basically says how the structures sit and then who owns what or who has control of what. If you look on the right of the screen, right? Excuse me. If I'm understanding this correctly, excuse me. It says clients launched by independent business using traditional legal entities. Ooh, excuse me. Now, oh man. Again, DUNAs are decentralized, unincorporated, nonprofit associations. Look at again the right side of what is said about the clients. It says C Corp, X Corp, and LLC. There's no etc. Etc. usually means, oh, there's other things. In terms of legal entities, there's no etc. And this is in regards to what is at the state, not the federal level, right? So you have it that God, the state comes up with what it comes up with, and then the federal government has what it has. The bottom line is, boys and girls, I really should say GnGs, is that even though the state has its thing of like, all right, we're going to allow for DAOs, which this isn't really a DAO. This is a thing called a DUNA, which is a decentralized, unincorporated nonprofit association. The key part of what a DAO is supposed to be is that the client base of the DAO is anonymous, right? In the way that this thing is set up or structured, you have someone that you can shoulder tap. Like that's an inherent part of it. Now they say on the face of it, it's three things that it addresses, which is one, it gives them legal existence, enabling them to contract with third parties. Two, enables them to pay taxes, and three, it provides limited liability from the action of other members. Again, the whole idea is that the anonymity, yeah, y'all know the word that I'm trying to say right now. The point being is that was supposed to be a key part of it. But in order to have this work within the legal framework of like, how do you hold someone accountable if something gets done wrong or someone challenges how something is done, you have to have some entity or a quote person to be able to bring to court for that process to play out. So my point being is folks are going to get excited about this until something happens at the federal level and these quote DAOs or DUNAs start getting smacked in federal court. That's going to be the issue, because at the end of the day, there is no legal structure at the federal level that recognizes what a DAO is supposed to be. And the biggest part of the crux of the issue at the federal level is you can't be anonymous. Someone has to get tapped somewhere. That's the biggest issue. If you can't tap somebody, you can't work within the legal system for how this is supposed to work. So in my mind, I think we'll see probably within the next 12 months, somebody get hauled in the federal court somewhere off of this. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not looking forward to it like I want to see somebody fail and go to jail or get a super crazy ass fine. I'm looking forward to it in terms of, okay, let's see how Wyoming is going to back whatever DAO gets challenged at the federal level. That's my question. Other thing to note in the other world of incorporations and stuff like that, I was listening to something the other day and they were talking about how companies are leaving Delaware and incorporating in other states. It's apparently the numbers are growing, but just throwing that out there as one of the things on my radar. But yeah, I'm gonna leave that there. I guess again, we're gonna see over the next 12 months, like who's gonna get brought up in federal court because they registered as a DAO or a DUNA in Wyoming, and we'll see how well that shit holds up. That's how I'm taking it. All right, so here is this. So y'all see the word lawmaker introduces a new proposal on cryptocurrency. So CCP, yeah, CC or CPP, is it Chinese? CCP, yeah. The red flag lawmaker introduces a new proposal on cryptocurrencies. And so the basic idea on this one is, again, like I keep saying, I've been saying this for like how long now? CCP was not anti-crypto. It was just they was trying to figure out in a more efficient way on how do we control the way that the community works and the way that the network works. Because we on this whole thing about capital flight control, we do look to limit it, and we don't have the Western thing of we just let entrepreneurs and merchant level folks and financial folks run free on what they think is the best thing for the society or the government. Like, nah, dog. That's why we have a government, because we figure out what's the thing for the society and the nation, not the money bag folks. So that's part of that thing right there. But the basic idea is this guy is basically saying, hey, we don't have enough mechanisms to be able to control and more effectively seize, take, pause, reverse, trace, quote, digital assets or cryptocurrencies that are in relation to, like, you know, any kind of illegal activity. And again, that, like, it's a broad euphemism of like, oh, illegal activity. Well, what illegal activity are we talking? Oh, well, you know, this person gave $5 and they didn't say it on their tax form. Illegal activity. They're a tax evader. Like, wait, what? And so, you know, let me take this quote-ish kind of thing that they said. So, he noted that due to the unique characteristics of virtual currencies, which differ from traditional properties, existing institutional arguments, investigative measures, and property destruction methods cannot meet the actual needs of virtual currency seizures, storage, realization, and other activities involved in the case. So he's basically saying we don't have the mechanisms in place to be able to do things that allow us to be more real-time active in taking proceeds from, quote, illegal activities. That's basically what he's saying. We don't have all of the mechanisms we need to be able to just like stop and pause people from their economic movements. That's literally what he's saying. We want more control. And that goes to the whole thing of how pretty much every government, whether it be an official big huge government or like, oh, this is the dominant player within the tribe or within the neighborhood, and they say, well, you have to give us X number of tribute per quarter, per month, per year. Why? Because if I let you get too big on how you're able to hold whatever your financial instrument is, you eventually will be independent of what I want you to do. That's the bottom line of that part. But we're going to use the criminal element to argue why we need to have this control. That's my interpretation. You don't got to agree with me. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a CPA, and I'm not a lawyer, and I'm definitely not in that jurisdiction. But pretty much this is how all government forms work. Whether you want to talk about it as a communist thing, a liberal thing, a conservative thing, a democratic thing, a Republican thing, they all move in the same way on this particular note. We're not trying to let the everyday person get too independent in how they are able to control, move, store, spend, and save their financial instrument, or what financial instrument we, quote, allow them to use or have. And that's the issue here. There's something that has developed outside of what is considered the sovereign fiat system, or a system provided by the government. That's the issue. This is about capital flight control, but we're putting it under a whole bunch of other shit. Criminals, the T word, all that other stuff. Again, this story is actually going to chain into another story. Because at the end of the day, I keep saying the same thing, been saying it for a minute, like our state, the CCP, any of the other places that you keep hearing are like anti-crypto. It's like, no, they've been changing their regulations for more than 2 years now to accommodate when the global government level, multinational corporation level, multilateral trade level adoption of crypto comes into play. We're still on the retail level of stuff. When that multilateral, bilateral level comes in, that's where the central bank and like the financial institutions or departments and their policies and their regulations that have been changing over the last 3+ years will start to make more sense to people if you're paying attention. So I'm gonna leave that one there. We're gonna jump into the second to last story. Am I right? Yeah. So this joint right here, I thought it was kind of funny, but I'm gonna throw this out, and I'm throwing this article because I think it did a disservice. But I don't know. Y'all tell me, does this count as a hand clap to community policing? So the basic of it boils down to the proposal comes out to do a restructuring of the Uniswap fees for V3. The community pretty much overwhelmingly, nearly 60% vote no. Hell no, we're not down for it. Stop. Now, I've said this before when it comes to this whole thing about like what is DeFi and decentralized governance and the whole thing of voting. Just because you're giving the ability to vote and it's in a smart contract ecosystem, it doesn't mean that the vote automatically triggers how the smart contract executes. You still have the developers, you still have the founders who have to tell the developers, hey, go ahead and implement that. And then developers have to go and execute. In this scenario, the head folks, right? The founders and whoever it is that they're financially obligated to, obviously for some reason or another, saw that they needed to do some adjustments to how the fee structure were going. And I think this probably plays into what is going on with the ETF realm stuff, as well as the whole crypto, not crypto, but the Bitcoin halving coming up. And they were probably trying to make some adjustments ahead of that so they wouldn't be too bad off. That's my thought process. I could be way wrong on that, right? But nonetheless, the community goes, well, nah, we don't see it. But is the community looking at the network in the same sense with all the same awareness of information as the founders and the financial backers behind Uniswap? I highly, 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 highly doubt that the general average person in the community of Uniswap who voted is looking at this proposal the same way that the founders and stuff were, with the awareness of the information that they have, not what the users have. It's two different levels. The other part that what I don't like about how this article in particular is done is that what they didn't do, like there'll be some platforms that when they do a change of a TOS, a change of the changing to the terms of service, they'll say like, all right, well, here's what we had before. Here's what the new thing is. The way this article is written, it doesn't break down the comparison of here's what the old thing is. Here's what the new proposal is. This is a possible scenario of what it was, or like at least go and take some of the posts off of Twitter and be like, here's something that one of the people who voted said that they didn't like in the proposal, or here's why that makes sense. They didn't do that. So it's like, well, what are you really informing us about here? Right. And I keep saying that too. Like, you got to look at it and go, what information is being provided to me and how relevant is this? And like, does the context that is being given to me make sense? I guess that's probably on how you interpret stuff too. So that might be a subjective personal thing. Nonetheless, first question is it community policing? I mean, it's a sizable portion of the community that voted no, but I don't know what the distinction is between the new proposal and what it was already before, because I don't pay attention to Uniswap like that. So y'all Uni folks out there, if you're in the comments, say something, please. I would appreciate the education in this particular moment. Then the other part is, does that mean that the founders won't find another way to push this proposal or do something that eventually like eases it in, if that makes sense? Again, I close out to this point on this particular story. Just because you took a vote on something, it doesn't mean that the contract executes off of what you voted. Case in point, it's like how the presidency thing works here in the States, right? Just because you voted for this person doesn't mean that that's the person who's going to be in the White House. Like, I'm making that comparison. Like, the vote doesn't automatically bring to the execution of what the thing was to vote for. It's not connected like that. So just throwing that out there for the whole thing of like decentralized governance. And then on top of it, that's a whole nother thing to like convince how many people to see the validity and the pros of whatever the proposal is you're putting before them, and to get enough of the user base, or at least the audience, the voting audience, to agree or not agree to it. That's a lot of work. So I mean, in that regards too, then hats off to whoever was like countering this to be like, no, we shouldn't do it. Like, you did your job, because more than 55% of the user base voted no. So yeah. All right, last story, and then I'm done. Where are we at? Where story here? So BRICS is developing a blockchain payment system. I feel like this caption reads weird, but nonetheless, this story kind of annoyed me because the person who they talked to from what you call it, he also sounded like he was just using buzzwords the way he was talking. I'll give you an example. Where was it? We believe that creating an independent BRICS payment system is an important goal for the future, which would be based on state of the art tools such as digital technologies and blockchain. Is not a blockchain a digital technology? Is not that there are different types of blockchains? Like, so, but anywho, let me get into this. So I've been hearing about the the BRICS doing their own single currency in addition to them doing their multilateral trades within their local currencies. And then there was a whole thing about having one actual currency. And then I want to say like a week or two ago, I heard the thing about the blockchain aspect, or having some kind of version of a CBDC that would be within their network. Here's my thought on this. The trend is, yes, all major and small financial alliances and groups will find some level of adoption to involve blockchain technologies, right? My fear in that is, do we follow the pattern of having it that the BRICS will then turn into what the US did with SWIFT? If you understand what SWIFT is and you understand how it was used as a financial weapon, I think you understand what I'm saying in this comparison of will the BRICS, as they continue to add more countries and markets into their alliance, do they end up turning around and just doing the same thing that the UN and the US has done with SWIFT? I don't know. I'm hoping not. As it stands right now, the major original parties of the BRICS, which is Brazil, our state, India, CCP, and South Africa, they've been promoting this whole thing of having a more equitable financial obligation between the different countries that are in the alliance. You can operate in your own local currency, and the idea of not having anyone dominate with their sovereign currency the way that the financing will work in the market, in that alliance's market, right? But people being people, because in this article there's a line that talks about how like the BRICS is supposed to be neutral of political influence, and it's like that don't even make sense, because the organization and the alliance was literally started off of not liking the political influence of the West in the larger global economy. That's literally what started this. So I don't know. It just, to me, it just didn't make sense to say something like that. Nonetheless, we're gonna see, because they don't give you a timeline of when this is gonna like pop out the gate or anything. But I imagine we will see something before 2025. Before 2025, something's gonna pop out. The real question, I think, between, I don't know. So 2025 is what, 7 months from now? So let's say this, like the latest it could go of where there's going to be some beta or test run. We already know that the R state's been testing their CBDCs. We know that the UAE's been doing agreements for trade within CBDCs. We know that the C state has already done their CBDC stuff in more than one country. We know that there are about 100 different variations of a CBDC program running globally in whatever phase it's at. Remember, there's about 200 different countries on the globe. Okay. The blockchain technology aspect, as far as like the blockchain crypto side of it, multiple countries have been trying to figure out their version of what they want to do. Plus you have the companies that are doing what they want to do, or the community. So Dogecoin is a community, Shiba Inu, like all of these different things, right? So it's these varying different financial instruments that have different properties to them, as well as different influences, whether they be state or retail level or commercial, meaning like financial institution versus the state, which is being a government, versus the retail level is just being a regular everyday person. That's where we are right now. And we're only going to get more headlong into it as we push through this decade. So again, the trend is already there. We saw this kind of coming. I'm worried because of what the pattern of behavior is for human beings. We'll see where this goes, but we should definitely see something happening within 2025 for this BRICS blockchain rollout, or at least beta test. If they probably do it with like the original founding countries first, and then they'll let it roll out into the other newer countries that joined in this last like 8 months. And we'll see how it play out. At the end of the day, though, no empire goes down without a fight. So it's going to be interesting to see how the U.S. reacts to this over the next, couple of years. And and it's really going to get crazy after the elections, because everything right now is about propping up the state's economy, making everything sound great. And then once we get past elections, like everything that they couldn't do publicly before elections, oh, it's going to be shenanigans and a half. And I think everybody's going to be a free for all getting it. Side note, did anybody hear about the pier thing that they're talking about building in Gaza? Like, if you in the States, my question is, where is that money coming from? Who's getting the contract for that? And literally, Biden said this during his State of the Union address. And I'm surprised no one's talking about that. Where is that money coming from? And how do you do no troops on ground, or no, quote, boots on ground, when you're talking about building a pier that has to touch land? What? Anywho, folks, I'm done. That was the last thing right there. And so, yeah, hopefully I said something that kind of got your ear, kind of got you thinking. It's just like I said in the beginning, like there's a number of things that at this point I just look and shake my head and I keep it moving. The space is maturing for sure. The local here within the states, within the country, and then like at the global side of it, like it's maturing on various levels. And then the way that the space is growing, it's not as though it's, quote, a universal across the board where all of the things are the same. What the CCP is doing versus what the R state's doing versus what Nigeria is doing versus what the Central African Republic is doing versus what Kurdistan is doing versus what Japan is doing versus what Canada's like. And everyone is in their own maturing stage, right? But over time, we're going to see how it comes together or how it all falls apart. I don't know which one. I'm hoping for the come together, though. I really am. Other than that, so on a live thing, if you missed it last week, I did a live thing last minute. It was a hell of a learning curve. Technology was not working for me, but I'm going to look to do at least one full live face on camera once a month. I definitely have to get better at dealing with the restream with on the back end of it. So yeah, and then I'm also trying to catch up with the content cousins on some things. So I'm trying to do a couple more different things different this year. Also, I am running stuff over on my actual channel, which I'm getting things together with that. So it's going to be the weekend crypto stuff, plus some of the other things that I've done in past years. And I'm also going to push the Metaverses the other side over on that side too. And then just some of the interviews and things that I've had, and try to like get that part rolling. I haven't actually started uploading the other stuff yet, but I'm just giving y'all the heads up. I'm going to start doing that. So the Trekkw2ks channel is going to start having content over there on that. And so, yeah, last housekeeping thing is this segment is brought to you by CJ the Smart Guy. Link for him is in the description. He is a CPA who focuses on cryptocurrencies for individuals as well as companies. As I say, I don't say this to you as you have to use him. I say this as, hey, when you're doing your due diligence and finding someone knowledgeable and who's a CPA who's been in the space for a bit. This is my CPA in full disclosure. And so you at least have some, type of reference and comparison. And when you finally do pick your person. And so link, like I said, is in the description. I gotta link up with him to bring him on. So like y'all could actually see who I'm talking about for the folks who haven't come across CJ just yet. But yeah, nonetheless, as I say, have a productive over a busy day. If it can't be a productive over a busy day, at least be in a safe place, in a safe space, in a good company. And from one human to the next, that is the best that I can wish you. And so, yeah, y'all, it's a Monday. One.